It's a pleasure on behalf of the Mets to welcome Mayor Eric Adams, Deputy Mayor Maria Torres Springer, New York Yankees President Randy Levine, local business partners, and all of our Mets employees who are here today, including those who are affiliated, union affiliated. You know, it's wonderful to have a mayor at Citi Field on a day that we're not playing the Red Sox. Steve and Alex Cohen are committed to the city of New York. During the height of the COVID epidemic, there are almost $17 million fund to help local businesses here in Queens, as well as the location of a vaccination center here at Citi Field. Now, we're proud to partner with the mayor and his team in their effort to reopen New York City and drive the economic recovery. Mayor Adams asked that this event be held in the Jackie Robinson Rotunda. Our home opener on April 15th coincides with the first game Jackie Robinson played for the Brooklyn Dodgers, starting at first base, April 15, 1947. We look forward during that April 15th game to celebrating Jackie's accomplishments and the historic nature of his start with the Dodgers that changed baseball and changed America. We look forward to not only celebrating Jackie, but the 9 ideals that drove him to the success that he achieved. It's my pleasure now to introduce to you the 110th Mayor of New York City, Mayor Eric Adams.
Thank you so much, Sandy and Randy. It's good to see you. Let me be clear on something. I'm the mayor of the city, and I'm going to make some tough choices. And people are not going to agree with some of them. They're going to look through their primary lens. They're going to talk about different things. But generals lead from the front. I was not elected to follow. I was not elected to be fearful, but to be fearless. I must move this city forward. If it's about ridding our streets of guns, it's about turning around our educational system, it's about dealing with our economy. I know people would like to stay and just pinpoint one issue and one item and make a decision, but I have to take the totality of my city and your city to turn around. And I want to be clear, I am unafraid of making the decisions, just like I was unafraid to put on that uniform and patrol the streets of this city. Tough choices take a tough person to be able to make them. And I know and you know, 8.8 million people in this city, 30 million opinions. I got it. And today, the decision we're not making it loosely, haphazardly. We're not doing it because there are pressures to do it. We're doing it because the city has to function. We're leading the entire country, for the most part, in unemployment. We're seeing unbelievable vacancies in our business district. Everyday men and women that are standing right here is dependent on our economy turning around so they can provide for their families. Then we have to have vaccination rules to make sure that we don't close down the city again. You take all of the combinations of what we must do, and you realize you better have a mayor that's willing to make those tough choices and willing to stand up and do what's right. And that is what we're doing today. Today, we're joining and saying that we will continue to take steps for New Yorkers, for visitors to come back to this city, to ensure that union employees are working, to ensure that we open our entertainment venues, our ballparks, our concert stages, to bring people to this city. A multi-billion-dollar industry is tied to tourism. That's a real issue for us. And I've always said over and over again, we're going to focus on the science, we're going to do what's right, and we're going to make sure we're healthy. And being healthy is not only physically healthy, it's economically healthy. Unemployment leads to the economic unhealthiness of this city. All of these things are taken into mind. And since we lifted the mask mandate for K-12 students, cases have remained low. I stated we were going to peel this back in a smart way, one step at a time. And the same goes with our lifting of the Patriot requirements under the key to New York City. Another layer peeled away. New York City is at a low-risk environment. And so today we take another step in the city's economic recovery and support local businesses, entertainers, and performances, and those performance venues across the entire city. And just like as any player, some people will boo us, but there are also those who will be employed and would cheer us. That is not only the game of baseball, but that's the game of life. And we have to be on the field in order to win in both the game of life. Today I signed Emergency Executive Order 62, expanding the performance exemption to private employer mandates. This is about putting New York City-based performers on a level playing field. Day one, when I was mayor, I looked at the rule that stated hometown players had an unfair disadvantage for those who were coming to visit. And immediately, I felt we needed to look at that. But my medical professionals say, Eric, we're at a different place. We have to wait until we're at a place where we're at a low area and we can re-examine some of the mandates. We're here today. Currently, only non-residents are exempt under this executive order. We expanded it to residents of New York City. It's unimaginable. We were treating our performers differently because they lived and played for home teams. It's not acceptable. This exemption has been put in our sports teams as at a self-imposed competitive disadvantage. But this new order would help boost our economy. Now, before I go on, let's be clear about this. I've said it and I will continue to say, all of us should be vaccinated. Even our players. We will continue to promote vaccinations and booster shots. It's imperative that we do so. That's how we got here. That's why we have an NBA season, because of the vaccination. Over 90% of players did so. And I'm hoping that we will reach the 100% numbers in both Major League Baseball and in basketball and other professional sports. We will continue to push and hope that they do the vaccination and booster shots. This is about supporting our local vendors, our local stores and performers. Walking outside of Yankee Stadium the other day and hearing those vendors on the ground that benefit from the baseball season saying how important it is. Players attract people to the stadium. And even here in this area where, what I will continue to say, Shea Stadium, vendors benefit. These union employees who make sure this field is operating benefit from the teams being here. And our nightlife, we're going to keep our nightlife industry thriving. A $35.1 billion industry. Everything from the cook, the dishwasher, the bartender, the busboy or girl, all feeds into this nightlife industry. And by putting our home teams on equal playing field, we increase their chances of winning. And that has a real impact on our city. This is just not fans in the stands, but it is people in the stores. Every time a championship or a game is played here at Yankee or Met Stadium, it's a boost to $11 million into our economic impact for New York City during the playoff seasons. These are real dollars, and they play a major role. And I want to be clear, expanding this exemption, which only applies to a small number of people, is crucial. We are simply making sure the rules apply equally to everyone who is a performer, regardless of where they perform their craft. We're going to continue to ensure that New York City is safe and our economy recover in a real way. We will look for other ways to ease restrictions, which is when it is safe to do so. As I stated, we're going to peel it back and turn around the economy in this city. Tough choice, difficult choice. There are going to be those who will say yay and those who will say nay. But that's what I was elected to do. I was elected to make these tough choices. I think generals come during wartime and peacetime. This is a wartime. COVID is a battle. Our economy is a battle. Crime is a battle. I'm not a peacetime general. I'm a wartime general. And I'm not going to lead this city from the rear. I'm going to lead this city from the front. And that's what generals do. We need to recover our city from crime, from economic devastation, from uncertainty. This is the city I inherited, and this is not going to be the city that I'm going to leave. New York is back. They're going to be strong, they're going to be resilient, and they're going to show America how to be the resiliency that we all could become. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Eric Adams. Good morning, everyone. It's fantastic to be here at Citi Field. Thank you for hosting this morning's event. I first want to acknowledge colleagues in government as well as other guests, in particular the CEO of Health and Hospitals, Dr. Mitch Katz, the President of the New York City Economic Development Corporation, Andrew Kimball, our Small Business Services Commissioner, Kevin Kim, our head of our Office of Nightlife, Ariel Palitz, and of course all of the venue owners, the performers, small business owners, ballpark workers who have joined us here today. Now, exactly 2 weeks ago, the mayor and I stood at the Hunts Point Terminal Market in the Bronx and unveiled a blueprint to accelerate our economic recovery. Central to that vision is getting our city and its major industries back up and running quickly and safely. And today is another milestone in the city's continued reopening and resurgence. Now, just a little bit of history and background here. At a very different moment in our pandemic, the previous administration enacted an emergency executive order requiring venues and other establishments around the city to require proof of vaccination for both their staff and for patrons. Now, there was an exemption added to that requirement, allowing for visiting performing artists and professional athletes who are not vaccinated to still be able to sing at our music venues and play in our stadia. Now, that was a deliberate decision, of course, based on a relatively small number of individuals being exempted, which meant a minimal impact to public health, but an enormous impact to our struggling venues and entertainment sector by allowing them to book more performers and fill more seats. However, as the mayor mentioned, that original exemption was limited to non-New York City residents, essentially creating a double standard that disadvantaged local artists and athletes and really did continue to limit our full economic resurgence. The mayor, of course, has been committed to adjusting these types of restrictions, but only in a thoughtful, deliberate manner, always guided by science. And that is exactly what we are doing here today. By expanding the existing exemption to include New York City-based performers, we are leveling the playing field, and we are giving another significant boost to our concert halls, theaters, nightclubs, and the many bars, restaurants, and other small businesses that really depend on the visitors to those venues to drive customers. Now, this is not just about our professional sports teams, as amazing as they are. But it is also about, of course, our local performers and entertainers, whether you are a jazz musician playing in a club in Flatbush or a comedian taking stage at Comedy Cellar. Today, we are adjusting a policy that left New York City performers on an uneven playing field. And as the health indicators continue to improve, we are certainly looking forward to seeing our nightlife and entertainment industries come back to life. Now, those sectors, nightlife, entertainment, employ nearly 300,000 New Yorkers and generate, as the mayor mentioned, over $35 billion annually in economic output. Over the past 2 years, so the stakes here are really high. Over the past 2 years, there were job losses that hit industries in these sectors in very intense ways. Our nightlife sector lost close to 300,000 jobs at the peak of the pandemic, one of the starkest impacts of COVID. And it's still down about 80,000 from pre-pandemic levels. But thanks to the work of New Yorkers, including the roughly 90% of New Yorkers who got vaccinated, we are in the position of propelling this part of our economy. And we certainly look forward to the creative energy, the artistic expression, and of course, the World Series championships that are to come. So thanks to everyone for being here. Now I'd like to invite Randy Levine, the president of the Yankees, to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. On behalf of the New York Yankees, I want to thank you, Mayor Adams, for making this courageous decision. And I want to thank you for the way you made this courageous decision. There was a lot of attention to this, and when we heard all of the questions, the inquiries, we reached out to the mayor and his staff, who were spectacular, thorough, deliberate. They explained that they had an open mind, but that they were going to do this in the right way. They were going to follow the science, follow the medicine, and make sure that the safety of all New Yorkers was the paramount goal, and see if they can work through it. And that's exactly what you and your staff did. And I congratulate you not only for the decision, and thank you for it, but on the process you and your team engaged in. You know, as Sandy would tell you, we at Major League Baseball have a lot of experience, unfortunately, with COVID. We played 2 seasons under the most intense protocols that there was. So we understand the science, we understand the risk, we understand how it works, but we got through it. We get it. And that's why we wanted to give the mayor the time to get to where he got today. So this is a good decision. We all believe in vaccinations at Yankee Stadium. I think we vaccinated over 100,000 people. We all think that we need to keep people healthy. But as the deputy mayor said, you need economic health also. And I can tell you, around Yankee Stadium, which is the hub of the Bronx, it hasn't been that healthy. It's going to get healthy now. We have some representatives I brought with me today, in addition to Brian Smith, our Vice President for Community Affairs. We have Lisa Soren from the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, and the famous Joe Bastone from Yankee Tavern. And they'll tell you now there's a buzz, there's an excitement, because we're going to be playing the Red Sox on April 7th, greatest rivalry in professional sports. And the Bronx and the city are going to be ready and rocking. We're going to get people out there, businesses open, selling merchandise, getting charged, getting people out of their house to get ready for a great season, which is going to happen here at Citi Field also. The Yankees and the Mets have 2 good teams this year. It's going to be exciting. So, Mayor Adams, thank you for your leadership. On behalf of the Yankees, we're excited. We're excited to play, and more important, we're excited to work with all the businesses in the Bronx, as we always have, and will continue to do, to lend all our support to really getting everybody back to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Now we're going to hear from a couple very, very important people in this equation. As the mayor mentioned, this is about businesses, small businesses in our city. It's about sports, but it's also about entertainment. And so first, the owner of Patsy's Pizzeria, Adem Briha. Adem, welcome, and let's hear a few words from you.
Thank you, everyone. Hi, my name's Adem Bria, and I'm the owner of Patsy's Pizzeria, one of New York City's oldest and most iconic pizzerias. Today, I'm joined alongside my fellow small business owners who, like myself, can tell you just how hard it was to keep our lights on during the peak of COVID-19. The exemption today is a critical lifeline that will benefit small businesses like us who depend on venues like Citi Field to drive business. We came to Citi Field because we wanted to be in one of New York City's greatest cultural venues, the home of the Mets, and also as a way to assist our brand by increasing consumer awareness. The decision today shows both the commitment of this mayor to small businesses as well as his exemplary leadership skills, as he has simultaneously led us by following the science while also keeping our economy going. And for that, thank you for your leadership, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Adem. And now, finally, I'd like to invite Chloe Smith, who's the events manager at the amazing King's Theater. Welcome, Chloe.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chloe P. Smith. I am the event manager over at the historic King's Theater. For King's Theater, this expansion will directly benefit us, but not just us, our ecosystem. The artists, the New York-based artists, the ushers who count your tickets, the bartenders who pour your drinks, and the small business vendors we partner with daily. We depend on the steady reliance of shows to pay our bills and to keep our lights on. This new expansion allows us to continue the upward trajectory and make sure our staff have peace of mind. Thank you, Mayor Adams, for your leadership and support for working-class New Yorkers. Thank you.
So folks, we're going to take on-topic questions from members of the media. Please raise your hand and we'll call on you. We'll go one by one. Andrew Steph, go ahead.
Mayor, when I asked you about whether you were going to roll back this mandate 2 days ago, you said that baseball and basketball and others were going to have to wait. They only had to wait 2 days. You also said you're relying on the science. The science hasn't changed in 2 days. So why did you make this decision now?
Well, first I was accurate. They say have to wait. 2 days is still wait. I was not going to roll it out when I rolled out the other aspects. We're peeling it back. We had a plan based on my medical team on how we're going to roll it out. And we're at the date that we feel this is the time to roll it out.
So there's been a lot of criticism from both private and public employees who lost their jobs because of the vaccine mandate. I guess it's a twofold question. The first is, what is your response to that? And the second is for, I guess, Sandy Alderson and Randy Levine. Did you fire employees of both Citi Field and Yankee Stadium for not getting the vaccine? How many? And will they get their jobs back if they're not, you know, if it's the guy who works at Carvel or the Mets team store?
I think to them, let's be clear, we had an urgent emergency pandemic, and I still take my hat off to the former mayor. Some tough decisions he had to make. I know what it was like at the beginning of the pandemic. I know what it was like after the variants returned. We made the right decisions, and I stated over and over again, we are going to continue to pivot based on COVID pivoting. We will pivot with it and make the adjustment of both our medical care, our physical health, and our financial health. The timing is exactly where we felt we should be, and make the tough decision to execute the plan.
So I'm sorry, if Mr. Levine and Mr. Alderson, if you could just comment, because did you fire employees for business? And also, doesn't that speak to small business and economic if someone lost their job because they didn't get vaccinated?
Yeah, let me say on behalf of the Mets that we are fully committed to vaccinations, and we are a mandated employer. The vast majority, 99.5% of our employees complied with that mandate and are fully vaccinated. There were 1 or 2 cases that came up that people were not prepared to be vaccinated, and their situations, they were terminated.
You said 99% are vaccinated, but does that extend to the players?
Well, the players are unionized, and the players are sort of outside the scope of our mandate, just by virtue of our relationship with Major League Baseball, the Players Association, et cetera. So everyone involved with the Mets, including scouts who are not residing in New York City and may not even come to New York City or to Citi Field, everybody's required to be vaccinated.
Marcia, go ahead.
Wait, hold on, before you do that, let's be clear on those numbers, because I don't want you to miss those numbers. Over 90% of his employees, over 90% of NBA players, over 90% of baseball players. So let's not give the impression that the overwhelming number of people in the city participated and understood the urgency of the moment. The overwhelming number of New Yorkers knew we were under a real threat, and they participated. And so as we move forward, we are being extremely careful on how we move forward, because the overwhelming number of New Yorkers don't want to go back to what COVID did to us.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, can take questions one at a time, Marcia. Go ahead.
How are you, Marcia?
I'm good, Mr. Mayor. How are you today?
Quite well.
Glad you're having a good day. So here's the question. You, as I know you're well aware, almost every municipal union has come out to criticize you today, especially because about 1,400 or 1,500 city employees lost their jobs because they did not want to get vaccinated. I wonder if you're thinking, given the fact that you've lifted this mandate for baseball players, if you would consider rehiring those 1,400 or 1,500 city workers who lost their jobs because they didn't want to get the vaccine, or would you do anything for them to compensate for the fact that they did lose their jobs?
Not at this time. I want to take my hat off to those countless number of New Yorkers, municipal employees that understood what we were going through as a city, and they stood up and they did the right thing. They understood that regardless of their opinions and feelings, they were municipal workers. These cases were played out in court. The judge ruled on behalf of the city, and I just want to commend those New Yorkers who are city employees, several 100,000 that knew we had to protect the city. And at this time, we are not reviewing if we're going to bring back those. A large number they were hired with the understanding they had to be vaccinated. They understood that, and they decided not to do so. So at this time, we're not entertaining it.
Follow up on that question, because you have a situation where a lot of these unions are saying that they were the heroes during the pandemic and that they should be compensated for it, or they should be respected for it. So what do you want to say to your vast number of city workers who are feeling their noses are a little out of joint today? What do you want to say to them? Speak directly to them.
I'm saying to them they were heroes. 300 and almost 40,000 New York City employees, 1,400 did not comply. Over 340,000 New York City employees stated, we want to be heroes for our city. I say to them, we cannot thank them enough. Everything from police officers to firefighters to nurses to doctors to those who clean schools, delivered food, those are our heroes. And I want to tell them thank you. The 1,400,
We'll come back to this side for a minute.
Mr. Mayor, wondering, how are these individuals any different from teachers that are required to get vaccinated against the NYPD? Why is this public health decision appear to be a carve-out? And are you worried that your decision will not be taken as seriously, again, given what Martin just asked as well? And also wondering, for the representatives from the Mets and the Yankees, how many of your players are unvaccinated right now? Can you give a concrete number?
I think that this was a carve-out that the previous administration did. I don't think people really understand that. This carve-out already existed. It was unfair to New Yorkers. It stated, if you come to our city, we're going to treat you differently than what we would treat New Yorkers. We are correcting that, and we didn't do it automatically. We waited until we were comfortable enough based on the medical team that we would continue to move forward with a very strategic plan of recovering our economy and looking at some of the unfair things that we saw.
Why not just get rid of it for all the other employees and trying to get rid of for this specific?
I think the deputy mayor stated it best. We're talking about a small number of people that's having a major impact on our economy. There's a duality to what I must accomplish. I must accomplish keeping the city safe, and I must accomplish recovering our economy. That's a duality. It's not a one-size-fits-all. In each area, we're going to focus and make sure we have that combination.
For the Mets, the Yankees, how many of your players are unvaccinated right now?
We have very few. Very few.
It's
not, we have a collective bargaining agreement, and I'm not at liberty to say how many, but it's very, very few.
Do you have a question?
What about the Mets?
Hold on. We're not going to do calling now. Go ahead.
Answer the follow-up question.
A minority of our players are not vaccinated.
Okay, guys, we're going to move on to the next one.
Yes.
The city fired more than 1,000 workers last month.
Yes.
How is this not actually creating a bigger double standard by saying that a handful of unvaccinated athletes are worth more to the city than 100 other workers who were fired?
Well, first of all, we're not talking about a handful of athletes, and I think this is the narrative that is unfortunate on what we're putting out there. I know struggling singers. I know struggling performers. We look at one or two athletes and we're not realizing the entire industry. We're part of a financial ecosystem that includes our nightlife, performers, artists, any entertainer. We created an unfair disadvantage to New York-based performers. I'm correcting that unfair disadvantage, and I'm doing it at the appropriate time when our numbers are low, and it's the right thing to do.
But Mr. Mayor, I know you're...
One at a time, one at a time.
Mayor,
Yes.
in the executive order, is there a distinction between players and performers who live in the city or who are working here? And also, what's the next group that is going to ask you for an exemption?
Again, I'm going to tell you, like I told Andrew, there's going to become a moment when we're going to continue to look at what we can peel back to bring back a level of normality to our city. That's my goal. And I'm going to do it in a slow, methodic way with the health team.
What about the distinction? Do people, are they required to live in New York City to be eligible for the exemption? Or is it just working?
Perform and working.
Mr. Mayor, I'd ask you, because you style yourself a shepherd of the sheep, a blue-collar mayor, to speak to the janitor or the popcorn vendor who reluctantly got the vaccine, will be here on opening day, and feels a little bent out of shape about this. Can you please speak to that person?
I did. They're right behind me. They're right here. What did you say to them? Thank you. Thank you for helping us get out of COVID. That we were all wearing one jersey, New York City, Team New York. And I'm saying thank you, because it's difficult to make decisions that you don't want to do, but when you look at the totality of your city and say, you know what, I'm going to lean into my discomfort so that I can make sure my city does not shut down again. So I say to them, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you mentioned legal challenges that the city has won on. Many critics of this have said it opens a door for legal challenges the city won't be able to withstand. What kind of counsel did you get from city lawyers on moving forward on this? Are you confident you're going to be able to withstand that? And I mean, it seems like the lawsuits are going to come pouring in now. How do you respond to that? What kind of counsel did you get from the lawyers?
Lawyers do what lawyers do. Doctors should not give advice for legal advice, and lawyers should not give medical advice. That is why they both have licenses to do different things. The lawyers, I would not be standing here today if I did not speak to the attorneys, and they said that this passes legal muster.
I've got one for Mr. Levine, too. You talked about how, as an organization, the Yankees believe in vaccinations. Aaron Judge's comments, is kind of wishy-washy statements on whether he's been vaccinated or not. Did the organization talk to him about that? I mean, he's a public figure with broad appeal. and he has the ability to influence a lot of people to get vaccinated. Could you speak on that at all?
We encourage everybody to be vaccinated. I think if you want to talk to a player, as I said, we have a collective bargaining agreement, you have to talk to that player. But we encourage everybody to be vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. Everybody in Yankee management is. I believe, I don't check it every day, but I think 99.9% of our people who work with us are vaccinated. So we stand behind vaccinations, and what Aaron Judge does and how he speaks is up to Aaron Judge. Just like if somebody asked you what your situation is, you should talk about it, not having other people talk about it.
But,
One back here, yeah. Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Just wanted to see, what would you say to somebody who works for the Department of Education or the NYC or the SNY who either forced to retire or... You can answer the same question 3 times if you want to ask this with some stewardship, but that's fine. What would you say to them that are watching your website? They're upset because to them, the perception is that sports athletes are getting...
First of all, 0 police officers under the last round were removed. And I say to those who are frustrated, who are angry, this was a challenging time for all of us. And I respect their frustration. I respect their anger. COVID brought out frustration and anger in all of us. All of us. It was frustrating to go to the hospital and drop your loved ones off, never to see them again. It was frustrating to see the number of small businesses that closed down. It was frustrating to see children wearing masks and not being able to go to school. We're all frustrated. Now the question becomes, do we turn our pain into purpose? That's what it's about right now. Tough decision. And this is not the last one. Trust me. You think this is the last tough decision I'm going to have to make as the mayor? No, it's not. There are going to be many tough decisions that I'm going to have to make as the mayor of the city of New York. And we should be glad that there's a mayor who's willing to make tough decisions to get us through these tough times.
You got a question back there. It's actually a question for Dr. Katz. Thinking back to what your workers were going through 2 years ago, how difficult it was to get a vaccine 1 year ago. What do you think about someone calling it courageous that unvaccinated people now have more ability in this city?
Dr. Katz, step up to the mic.
I think, as the mayor has said, this is what he's doing today is righting an unfairness that doesn't make any sense and doesn't follow the science that if you're from out of town, it's okay to play here without a vaccine, and it's okay if you're unvaccinated to play over there without a vaccine, but it's not okay if you're a hometown team to play here. It doesn't, I don't think it makes any sense or follows any particular science. As the mayor has said, my healthcare heroes did an amazing job through something that I hope we'll never again live through. And I think the mayor has been incredible about always listening to his health and science people.
Mr. Mayor, obviously people have been concerned about the subvariant of Omicron that has been gaining prevalence. Would you consider going back on this executive order if that becomes a concern? And then second, just to mention the Yankees, are you going to be testing those players who are not vaccinated, and if so, how regularly?
Well, first, we have to pivot and shift with COVID. It's a formidable opponent. It changes. It pivots and shifts. We are not going to be stringent and rigid. Whatever I need to do to recover the city, protect the city, I'm going to do it. And so if we have to come back to this podium and do whatever needs to be done to make sure that we're safe, we're going to do that.
What about the Yankees?
I think it's been true throughout the COVID pandemic that the Mets have followed Major League Baseball regulations, New York State regulations, and New York City regulations, and we will continue to do so. And to the extent that New York City or the state override Major League Baseball, we follow the city and the state. And that's been clear from the very beginning, and it will continue to be the case.
What specific decisions like the market have given you the aggregate number of unvaccinated?
We just concluded a basic agreement. In the basic agreement, there are privacy concerns that are listed. There are also HIPAA concerns under the law. So it's in the basic agreement. If players want to discuss, and then I just told you few. That's what I said to you. You're going to have to live with few. So, and I can't give you individuals because that's what the basic agreement says. You're a pretty smart guy. Figure out what the scope is for few.
Mr. Mayor, could you tell me who lobbied you on this issue? Were you lobbied by Mr. Levine and others? And who in your administration was also contacted by professional lobbyists?
I was not lobbied. I was speaking with both the teams in the city, as I do as the mayor all the time on the different issues. I heard all sides, and then I made the final determination. This is not based on a lobbying coming in. People have been speaking to us throughout this entire process. We've made our decisions based on my morning briefings with our team, my medical team, and we made our decisions based on that. Outside noise is not going to interfere or intercede in what we're doing. I mean, it's clear. Look, no distractions. I have a team. That team gives me the advice I need, but the ultimate decision I'm going to make. So this is not about lobbyists. This is about making the right decision for the city.
The decision just seems slightly abrupt because it was just a week ago that you told Kyrie Irving that he wanted to play, he needed to get vaccinated. So it does seem like a very quick evolution. You were very clear that Mr. Irving needed to get vaccinated.
Okay, then I'm not quite sure if you heard me today. Kyrie, you should get vaccinated. Nothing has changed. Get vaccinated. I still feel get vaccinated. So that has not changed on my feeling that everyone should get vaccinated and boosted. That is where I am.
Mr. Mayor, what's your message overall to the athletes in New York if they are unvaccinated? Did they win here?
Did
they win? By being unvaccinated and enduring this stretch?
No. We're not looking for winners and losers. We're looking to have our city recover. And so, no, I do not believe that. I will continue to say get vaccinated so you don't expose your family, you don't expose your team members, and you don't expose other New Yorkers. So I don't think that there's a win here. We're making a smart decision for the city of New York.
We're going to take one last question right here.
Mayor, you say thank you to the ones who helped the city through the COVID, but that doesn't help when you go to pay your mortgage if you lost your job. That's not discrimination just because you are not a famous player or somebody famous in Broadway or something like that. What do you say to them?
Again, when you look at New Yorkers, they responded. They responded. And I think that if we ignore the overwhelming number of New Yorkers that sheltered in place when we asked them, that did social distancing, that wore their mask, that understood that they had to get vaccinated and boosted, then we're missing the point. New Yorkers stepped up during the most difficult time that I know in my modern time of life. New Yorkers stepped up. And I say to them, thank you for stepping up. And we have a tough road ahead of us, a tough road. And it's going to call on us to step up even more. And so the message I'm saying today to New Yorkers, thank you. And we're now going to continue to evolve to turn our city around. We have to get our city back.
Mr. Mayor, are you bringing back the Jets to Shea Stadium?